Ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet, welcome back to yet another episode of Crypto Over Coffee. I hope you are doing well today. If you're new here, every single Friday I break down the latest news and the hottest topics in the world of technology and cryptocurrency over a cup of delicious coffee. Now in today's episode, we're talking about all sorts of things related to Bitcoin, we're talking about Cardano, we've got some stuff about Nexus, and of course our usual 404 Logic Not Found segment. But before we get into all of that stuff, let's kick it off with questions from the community on YouTube and Twitter. So I'm going to pull those up over here on the computer now, and if you want one of your questions answered, make sure you leave it in the comments below or tweet me at Hashoshi4. And if you would be so inclined, please do subscribe to the channel and click the little bell notification button down below so you can get a heads up whenever I post new content like this. So let's go ahead and dive into those questions. Awesome. So the first question that I've got here is from Cody Wheeler, and this is a question from Twitter. Would like to hear your thoughts on Hedera Hashgraph and where you think it stands with the likes of Ethereum, Cardano, DOT, etc. in the next 5 years. Cheers and have a great weekend. You too. So this is a good question, and I think Hedera is an interesting one for me because I think the technology, I think directed acyclic graphs or DAGs are part of the future of decentralized tech or distributed tech. And I think Hedera has the most compelling implementation out there that kind of came after different projects that have done it, like IOTA, for example, that are obviously not doing so hot. The issue that I have with Hedera Hashgraph is that the governance has issues, in my opinion. People may disagree. I don't think that the committee system really works very well, where you have sort of this almost like a delegated proof of stake sort of vibe where you've got sort of committee members that help run validation and block making, even though it's really not block making, it's transaction validation here in this context. So I think that they really need to rethink the way that governance is facilitated, because I think that while it has value in some arenas, it's definitely not a direct replacement for networks like Ethereum or like a Cardano, for example, that are one canonical chain and are going to have, fast finality and all sorts of other things. I think they're very different. So I think Hedera Hashgraph has potential. I don't really love their governance model. I don't love the consensus model. But of course, to each their own. But thank you very much for your question. I've got a question from King Lalabella. Really enjoy your channel. Thanks so much. Concerning ETH, do you have enough faith in Ethereum's longevity that you would stake 32 ETH or more? How is the staking process implemented, and is it automatically or on request done by Coinbase? So there's a lot in this question. Do I have enough faith in Ethereum's longevity? Yes. I think Ethereum is here to stay. I think Ethereum 2.0 is going to happen, but I also have realistic expectations in terms of when that will happen. Will I be able to stake next year? Probably. Will I be able to implement smart contracts next year? No. And so I think that that's where people need to understand Ethereum 2.0 is the long game. And staking is something that you can do with 32 ETH, which at, I guess, prices a few months ago wasn't so bad, but now it's maybe a little bit more expensive to get. So if you don't already have it, you're probably going to have to join a pool. Staking is going to be implemented with a series of different clients. There are going to be projects out there like Blocks Staking, BLOX, I believe, that are going to allow you to do it through user interface. You can do it manually. You can become a validator. But you can also, I'm sure, do it through Coinbase. I'm sure they're going to do that because they love to collect revenue from people for staking. My recommendation would be find a way to do it in a way that doesn't let you share your rewards with someone else, right? So Coinbase should be your final option, and I would recommend against doing it. But when that happens, I will create a tutorial, so do not worry about that. Thank you so much for your question. We've got another one from Cedric Riveau. Do you use a portfolio tracker? Yes, I do. You're saying I'd love to hear your perspective on this regarding trust issues. Yeah, I think that privacy is an important thing to think about when you look at a portfolio tracker. You're aggregating all of your holdings into one spot. For me, I personally use cointracker.io. It's the same system or service I use for my crypto taxes and how I track that stuff throughout the year. And then if you get their portfolio package, you can manage your portfolio there, aggregate everything all into one spot. which makes everything easier for me. It works perfectly for my workflow. And then you can also use it to find places where you can harvest losses for your taxes at the end of the year, and then reinvest in that asset that you harvested losses from. There's a whole bunch of really cool tools, and I've really been enjoying using CoinTracker for that. So I will link that down below if you're interested in CoinTracker. Fantastic service, and I can't recommend it enough. But if you do want an app that is 100% free across all volumes, you can do something like Delta, which I also really like. All right, question from GM Radford. Great vid as always. Thank you. Do you think art, gaming, or something else will be the first sector to adopt NFTs or non-fungible tokens? And why based on the sentiment you've experienced? I think, yes, we're super early in this. I think the tech is starting to catch up. You have standards like ERC 1155 that have come from Engine. You have more native stuff like in Phantasma, for example. And even Cardano and other networks are starting to bring in NFTs natively. I think that the first place that this really gets adoption is going to be gaming. And the reason is because I think that's where all the focus is. I think all the developers that are working on NFTs are really focused on gaming. And art has already gotten the most adoption to date. So I think that was the first sort of frontier. The second frontier where adoption really kicks off and then carries art with it is going to be gaming, in my opinion. And again, that's because there's so much development going in from a code perspective, but also from a fundamental like business and marketing perspective where people start to understand how the gaming economy can benefit from something like non-fungible tokens, where you can create a secondary market for in-game items that you can prove you own outside of the game. And I think there's a huge market for that. So that's just my opinion. And I think this is the final question that we have for the day from Richie Anderson. This will be a fast one. Do you hodl UTK or Theta? And that would be Utrust and Theta. Very promising signs from both. I agree. I do hold both. I think that both projects have unique potential. I do think, though, that you should do your own research and determine whether you think something like the crypto version of PayPal and then content delivery and NFTs and all sorts of other stuff in Theta are something that you're interested in. So, yeah, both projects are cool. Well, let's dive into the news. Now, a quick heads up, in partnership with the folks at Cobo who make the awesome Cobo Vault wallet, I will be giving away a Cobo Tablet Plus Steel Seed Phrase backup device every single episode from here on out. So all you have to do to enter the random draw for one of these every week is to just comment on the video and I'll pick a winner from the comments below. And for transparency purposes, the product is only available in the US, Canada, and Europe right now. So if you win and you're from another region, I will hook you up with Bitcoin instead to make sure that you get a fair shake at a reward. So let's go ahead and dive into the first story of today. And I wanted to kick things off with probably the most widely talked about story from midweek this week. And that's the fact that the popular US crypto exchange Kraken is now licensed as a banking entity with access to the federal banking systems here in the US. This was surprising to me, and this came from the Wyoming Banking Board after they approved Kraken as a formal special purpose depository institution. That's SPDI, and they're chartered as an SPDI. And this is huge not only because of the message it sends to the market in terms of the legitimacy of crypto as a monetary instrument, but also because it's the first crypto company to move into the realm of banking in a real certified way, despite the focus being all on which banks are going to move into crypto, so not the other way around. I'm frankly more interested in the former, though, because becoming a banking institution means Kraken will be able to provide its customers with the fruits of a tighter integration with banking products, and they'll have more funding options and even more products that integrate crypto holdings with traditional banking or financial mechanisms like payment cards or saving plans and all sorts of things like that. It also means that as a state-recognized charter, Kraken now has a lower barrier to entry to bring products and operations into as many states as possible because their compliance requirements are going to be really well defined and pre-cleared. Now, if I am a new exchange trying to break into different states that all have different rules and compliance mechanisms, I would be trying to get a charter as well to be a bank like Kraken, and that would clear my path. And this would be a critical component for many exchanges trying to do this that are currently suffering with the high cost of compliance. Like there's a lot of legal stuff that goes into building an exchange. Now, one thing you should know is that SPDI banks are not lending banks, meaning they don't make money from interest products, and they have a requirement to keep 100% reserves in their asset bank. In other words, they're not predatory banking institutions like some others could be accused of. But this does mean that to make the move worth it for Kraken, they're going to have to come up with revenue generating programs and products relatively quickly after this decision has been made. Now, overall, a really fascinating and honestly shocking development to me. I had no idea this was going on, and I actually think it is quite positive overall for the space. Now, if we turn our attention to Bitcoin for a bit, pun intended, I'm pleased to reiterate that we did break back above the 11K mark after a period of strong support in the low 10K range. Now, many are referencing the idea that because the sentiment towards Bitcoin is relatively negative right now, and miners have sold off a significant amount of Bitcoin in weeks past, that we are now set for another positive price cycle. It is indeed possible if you look at previous year's trends, and quite frankly, post-halving highs have usually started to come within 6 months to a year of the halving. And we'll be running towards that 6-month mark here in about December of 2020 or November of 2020. And so what I'll be watching for is this. When the volatility begins, price drops and price swings start to happen, how much volume is being sold off in panic? And then secondly, when the price moves up, does the market cap expand or just stay sideways? The first metric shows me that there are stable investors, not speculators riding Bitcoin, and that there's some belief in Bitcoin, and they're not looking for just a quick buck investment. And that's essential in small markets like this because panic selling in a small group becomes panic selling in a large group very quickly. The second metric is market capitalization, which has been super stagnant these days. The people investing in the market seem to be largely people who are already in the market, so money's just kind of moving around in circles. And because the overall market cap for crypto has stayed slow in growth, it's a little bit concerning if you look at it at face value. But if you look again to the past, you'll see cap growth has come in spurts for almost every other period in time in crypto history. And if Bitcoin begins to show signs of a bull run, I want to see how many sideline investors from retail get in, because we already have some big name institutional investors in the game, and there are probably more on the way, along with companies. Now, the last thing I do want to say on this matter is about that. The news about companies like MicroStrategy moving their liquid capital into Bitcoin as a value-preserving measure is massive. But I credit other YouTubers like Digital Asset News and Crypto Love for this sentiment after we had a chat the other day on BN. The bigger story here is that the stock price for MicroStrategy rose 9% after the news broke about them buying Bitcoin. That, to me, is proof in the pudding that there's interest in Bitcoin within the wider retail market and the investor market as well. So I'm very optimistic that we see more companies doing the same, and that'll be pretty cool. Now, I did want to take some time to talk about today's sponsor, Prime XBT. I've done quite a few videos noting great places for US and Canada folks to exchange and trade crypto as well as other assets, so Europe and Asia deserve some love as well. That being said, today's sponsor, Prime XBT, is a solid option for folks in those regions of the world that are looking to have access to not only cryptocurrencies to trade, but also things like Forex markets, gold markets, S&P 500, and more. And what makes it appealing for crypto investors in particular, though, is that all profit and loss is settled in Bitcoin. So as you trade in whatever market you're interested in, you can invest and settle out in Bitcoin. In many ways, Prime XBT is an all-in-one hub to trade across a wide variety of markets, including cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ether, EOS, XRP, etc., with more to come over time. And the base fees are quite low at 0.05%. And of course, the fee structures are all over their website, very, very clear terms. Whether you want to take advantage of more traditional investing methods like limit, market, or stop orders, or more advanced and risky margin and leverage trading, Prime XBT gives you access to a wide range of different markets so you can diversify to your heart's content. Now, if you're in a supported region in Europe or Asia, please do check out the platform using the link down below. And I also feel it is my responsibility to note that if you are a novice trader or even one with some experience, please bear in mind that while profits are magnified using leverage or margin, your losses are also as well. So please do not overextend yourself or enter into a high-risk trade without proper education and understanding of the risks associated, and please use a stop loss. Now, I am stealing an idea from ESPN where I'm going to shout out the biggest winner of the week and the biggest loser of the week. And we'll see how this segment goes with all the people that are watching. So let me know in the comments below if this is a winner or a loser. The biggest winner of the week is certainly Ethereum miners, who gobbled up massive CryptoKitties-esque no shame fees in the wake of the UNI craze. And I mean, talk about profits for Ethereum miners who basically only have high fee transactions to deal with. I've almost never seen fees like this before in my entire life. Now, the biggest loser of the week is the Federal Reserve and all of us who hold on to their dollars after they just announced years of near zero interest rates to boost the US economy with our good old friend inflation. Say goodbye to your spending power, folks. I'm personally not too excited about $5 packs of chewing gum and $10 loaves of bread. I don't know about you, but that's a loss for me. In other news, Hashoshi here owes Band Protocol, the blockchain-based Oracle network, an apology. In recent episodes of Crypto Over Coffee, I cannot remember exactly which, I directed some pointed criticism towards the CEO of Band Protocol after comments were circulated in publication about his attacks on Chainlink, a major competitor for his company, with what I deem to be misleading metrics. What I did not have the opportunity to do or to view is the full interview and context in which those comments were made, which I only managed to find and actually watch from end to end after that video had run. In that interview that I watched, the comments were far more innocuous and far less contextually negative than the quotes that I read in black and white. And the preamble to the conversation contained a lot of really open-minded and reverent comments from Saravis, I think that's how you pronounce his name, or Saravis, about Chainlink and other projects in the market that I felt set the tone for the rest of the conversation in a non-negative way. Now, hearing the tonality of the commentary live made a lot of difference for me in terms of understanding the intent of the words that were said. And all in all, while I disagree with the content of what was said in the context of Chainlink, there was nothing purposefully malicious or vitriolic about what was said. In this case, I played myself. Just reading something in black and white can get you in trouble. And so for that, I would like to apologize to Saravis for my comments on the matter. And again, like I said in the video before, I like Band Protocol. I think the solution that they built is cool, and I would love to see them succeed. So yeah, I'm feeling better about that now that I've had the chance to apologize. Anyways, in other news, it is time for 404 Logic Not Found, and thanks so much for everyone who's been telling me that they really love it. But in this segment, I highlight notable tech-related fails or otherwise stupid moves in the world that need to get some attention. And speaking of attention, if you want to help this video get some attention from the YouTube algorithm gods, please do hit that like button and get subscribed, because it does tell YouTube that you're liking what you're seeing and other people should also see it. So thank you so much for that in advance. Now, today's foray into the realm of zero logic or no logic is brought to you by Justin Sun and those who operate the Uniswap competitor on Tron called Just Swap. I'm going to pause there. Was the name of the platform eerily derived from Justin Sun's name on purpose? The world may never know. Anyways, Just Swap is operated with a whitelist for projects that can run through the exchange service, and one of the latest whitelisted projects is in fact Tron Supernode, which is accused of pulling a nearly $2 million exit scam, leaving investors hanging after Tron Supernode's social media presence and website evaporated into thin air without really any explanation. Now this begs the question, what in the world does a whitelist do if there is either A, no vetting such that exit scams are listed, or B, vetting is biased to the point that scams are allowed to flourish on the platform? In my mind, let the community decide. How about that? People generally spot scams as a group and shout them out on social, and communities should curate the whitelist, not Justin Sun's folks or the people who run the project. The Tron community has my commendations, however, for holding these folks accountable for this. And I'm honestly really sick about it, that there really hasn't been much done to address these concerns from the community. So 404 logic not found, folks. Protect your community and not scammers. It's pretty obvious. Now, for you Cardano fans out there, I do have some predictions for when we see the anticipated Goguen smart contracts upgrade that comes to mainnet sometime soon this year, hopefully. And so based on what I've been seeing on the status updates on IOHK's website, the work that's being done with the Plutus team and Marlowe team seems to indicate to me that we're approaching the point where a formal testnet, likely a 1-week private testnet and then a longer public testnet, will be imminent. And I would expect a private testnet is either already live behind the scenes or will be by mid-October. And then after that, a month or two long public testnet will probably run through the month of November and into December, with the mainnet release of Goguen coming at the end of the year or early next. This will enable all sorts of really cool use cases to be implemented as dapps on the Cardano network, including projects like Cardano Buzz's Cardano Kids non-fungible token collectible project. And that's one that I actually think is really cool. I scrolled through the designs and I think it'll be a nice addition to the first set of dapps that are built out on Cardano. So I'll leave a link to Cardano Kids down below if you're interested in checking it out. In many ways, the Shelley staking and incentives upgrades were foundational to enabling smart contracts to work properly, providing the necessary scalability, finality, and decentralization needed to make these programmable logic applications valuable. That being said, if you're currently interested in staking and supporting the decentralization of Cardano, I did want to shout out some smaller stake pools that you can delegate to, because the big guys get all the attention. And so I'll put those up here on the screen if you're interested. And if there are any smaller stake pools that you like, please let me know in the comments below. But here are those pool tickers shown on the screen for you to check out. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, first of all, thank you so much for doing that. But you might remember that I did a video with Colin Cantrell, the mastermind behind the bold blockchain project, Nexus. Well, Nexus has made a great move recently that I think deserves some attention, and that is to utilize the Bubble platform to create a graphical user interface driven development experience. And I say development in quotes for people with no technical skills whatsoever to create applications that run on the Nexus blockchain. This means that one can access the core functionality encapsulated in the Nexus core APIs, or application programming interfaces, using a user interface rather than with code that they write themselves. So this is very similar to the logical dashboarding flow creation that I talked about with Cardano's Goguen or Cardano's Marlowe module. And this presents a level of abstraction to the complex Nexus network that will drive adoption for the protocol overall, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of this idea. You guys know I really love abstraction of some of the complexities. And I think that projects should all be finding ways to include non-technical folks in the creation of valuable products and services in the space and on their network, of course. If you're interested, I will leave a link down below to the write-up that explains what Bubble is, what this means for Nexus, and how to get started. And again, I think this is a really, really smart move from the Nexus team. So well done on that. And folks, if you do have some time to stick around, please do check out my video about the YubiKey 5C NFC. It's around here somewhere, but it's the best security key that you can get, the best way to secure your crypto, your banks, your online accounts, etc. And I made a video about it because I just love the product so much. So I'll link that video up here on the screen for you to click if you're interested. But if not, thank you so much for watching as always. And I hope you and your family have a wonderful week and weekend. And I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.